Hi guys, Steve Good here with the Scroll Saw Workshop. I'm going to put this video together tonight to show you how to build a scroll saw compound cut clamp. If you're not familiar with making compound cuts on the scroll saw, it's basically the process you go through to cut out 3D objects using the scroll saw. And part of that process is you need a clamp to help hold the piece together after you make the first side cut and rotate it. And sometime later in the week I'll do another compound cut pattern for those of you that haven't done this before and show you how to use this clamp. But I had received an email from a friend today, and they needed a clamp to start out in cutting compound cut scroll saw patterns. So I told her I'd put one together for her, and I thought, well, while I was at it, I'd go ahead and build another one for myself because the one I've got is kind of getting long in the tooth now, and I needed a replacement anyway. And so I figured I'd make two of them. So that's what this little video slideshow is going to be about, is how I went about putting this together. Okay, if you look at the picture on the screen right now, you're going to see that on the left side here, this is the first one I made today, and after I got it built and made sure everything was the way I wanted it, I started on the second one, and that's what I have over here is the pieces that I need. You're going to need two pieces of wood that are 7 inches long, 1.5 inches wide, and 3/4 to 1 inch thick. In this case, I used 1 inch thick stock. You're also going to need 4 washers. These washers are 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch washers. You're going to need 2 hex bolts, and you need to use the hex bolts because they have to have a flat bottom on the head right here. They need to be 1/4 inch, 20 threads per inch. And again, I bought all this stuff at Home Depot, so it should be pretty easy for you to find. We've got 4 different wing nuts, 2 different sizes. The ones here on the bottom are matching the bolts. They're 1/4 by 20 wing nuts, and they'll screw onto the bolts. These up here are actually oversized for the bolts. They're actually 5/16 inch wing nuts, and they will slide up onto the bolt without the threads catching, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. And then I've got 2 plastic caps that we're going to put on the end of these bolts just to help protect our hands. Okay, the next thing you'll need is I went ahead and made what I call a story stick pattern, and we're going to use this story stick to mark our 2 blanks of wood for where we're going to drill our holes and cut out the notch for the adjustable side of the clamp. I went ahead and very carefully cut out the story stick right on the edges of it, and you can see right here, this piece right here we're going to cut out, and that's going to be to slide one of the bolts up and down to make it adjustable. The other hole we're going to drill is right here. So I've got actually 4 different markings that we're going to use on this story stick. We're going to use the center line. We're going to use these 3 cross lines to mark where we're going to drill the holes. And so you want to cut this out very good and square, make sure it's sized right. I've laid the story stick down on my first blank, and I've marked the center point of this 1.5 inches. So this center mark is 3/4 of an inch. So I used the story stick to mark that on both ends of the blank. Once I did that, I connected those 2 marks I just made with a pencil line to give me a center line on the blank using a straight edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I'm going to drill the holes, and you can see it's these 3 cross lines right here are where the holes are going to be drilled. So I'll take my pencil and make a mark at each one of those locations right on the center line. Here are both blanks marked out. I've got the mark for the first hole we're going to drill on each one. These 2 holes will drill, and then we'll actually use our scroll saw to cut out this section right here where the X is, and that'll be our groove for the adjustable bolt. So I took the pieces over to the drill press and went ahead and used a 17/64" drill bit because we want it to be a little larger than our 1/4 inch bolts, so they'll slide in and out of these holes very easily. We don't want any binding or anything. So go ahead and very carefully drill all these holes. And since they're a little bit oversized, the bolt's going to have a little play in it anyway, so they don't have to be absolutely perfect, but you want them as close as you can. You can notice I used a fence here on the drill press to make sure all the holes were lined up. And you're going to do that to both pieces of the blank. Then what I did is the two holes that are the furthest apart, I'm going to go ahead and draw connecting lines from the bottom of these holes to the bottom of the next hole, and same across here using a straight edge and a good sharp pencil. And you can see I've got this mark right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out. So I went ahead and put X's on it to show that's the waste material. Same thing on the other piece. Now I've gone over to the drill press. I'm going to use some plastic tape over the piece of wood just because this is a fairly thick piece of wood and I don't want any burning. I've installed a number 9 blade in my scroll saw. I went ahead and pierced the hole right here, and again we're going to cut out these two sections right here. And here you can see I have the first blank cut out, so I've got the hole for the fixed bolt here and the slot for the sliding bolt here. Going to do that of course on both pieces. Now we're going to get the hardware ready. We're going to take our two 6" by 1/4 inch 20 threads per inch bolts, and we're going to take the two oversized wing nuts and just slide them up on here backwards. You want the wings to come up like you see right here in the picture, because these are going to be the end of the bolt that we're going to hold on to while we tighten it, and we don't want this end to turn. On the version of this clamp that I built a few years ago, I actually epoxied this end onto the wood, and that was just a little more trouble, so I thought I'd just do it a little easier this way. And I'll show you here in a little bit exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, just slide these up on there backwards. Then I'm going to install one of the 1 1/4 inch washers on each one of the bolts. Then we'll take the bolts and we'll slide them through the holes in the two blanks. Over on the other side, we're going to install two more 1 1/4 inch washers. The next thing we'll add are the two sized wing nuts that are 1/4 inch, and they actually thread up on these bolts. So just thread them up, and this is what's going to give us our adjustability of the clamp. And the last thing we want to add are these little plastic caps, and that's just to protect our skin while we're actually over at the scroll saw using the clamp. So you want to put a couple little plastic caps on it. Not absolutely necessary, but just kind of a nice thing to add. Now, the way this is built, these wing nuts that are on here backwards, when I get my blank inside here that I want to start cutting out, I can just grab this wing nut right here, and then as I turn this wing nut, this one will stay stationary and go ahead and cinch the clamp up. And I just wanted to show one more time a close-up of how this wing nut sets into this hex head on this bolt. The hex head prevents this bolt from turning when you hold the wings of this wing nut. And here I've got a piece clamped up in it, and I did this to show that this bolt over here slides up and down the slot that we cut in it, and that just allows you to get a little better clamping pressure if you're cutting a small compound piece of wood. We can move the clamp in. Again, you can see now I've got it set up to cut the second side, so we've actually slid the clamp back out a little bit. And if we have a longer piece, we can move our adjustable bolt down here. This particular clamp will accommodate a 5 1/2 inch long piece of wood, which is more than long enough for almost any compound cut pattern you'll make. And again, here's back to the beginning section where this is the finished clamp and all the materials that we'll need to build it. And again, it's just our two blanks of wood, washers, a couple of bolts, some wing nuts, and some plastic clamps. So that's how I went about building this compound cut clamp for the scroll saw tonight, and I'm going to be shipping one of these out to my friend up in Ohio, and I hope she gets a lot of enjoyment out of using this. And because I was building these, I thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and put it together in a little video to show the rest of you that haven't done this before how to build one of these clamps. And like I said, a little bit later in the week, hopefully tomorrow, the next day, I'll go ahead and cut another compound cut pattern just to show you the usefulness of this clamp. I'm Steve Good. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time here at the Scroll Saw Workshop.